Good morning, Vesime. How are you?
Good morning, Daphne. I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. Your background is beautiful today.
Thank you.
And good morning to all of you who've joined us today. My name is Daphne Vesime, and I am the founder of Wingman Wellness, and we're so excited to have you join us on our live stream today.
And I'm Vesime Schroering. We really are excited to share with you a few things today. We're taking a little bit of a different approach. So talking about nutrition and physical activity, but also physical activity and nutrition and the impact on our mental health. Gosh, we know that this year has been such a challenging one for nearly all of us. And so we thought it was important for us to share a little bit more about how we can utilize physical activity and nutrition in order to aid in a better mental health.
Vesime, I agree. And I don't know about you,
but Daphne,
No, you go on.
Oh, I was going to say, how was your 2020?
Well, 2020 was rough. I mean, emotionally, physically, mentally. In some ways, I think it made me stronger, but in some ways, it really highlighted a lot of the things that are really important to health. And they're the kind of things that I didn't learn in medical school. They're the things that are really life related. But reflecting back on what happened in 2020, I think going forward, it will allow me to make a lot more wise decisions as it relates to my nutrition, my physical activity, and who and what's important to me. How about you?
Yeah, same. I mean, so at first it was a fish out of water. I couldn't go to the gym. It was my daily routine was completely thrown off. Having kids at the house, that initially we were quarantined and virtual learning was something new with a full-time job. It was one of those things where you were just thrown off kilter. And so, you just made baby steps to adapt. So, my husband's office ended up being in our guest bedroom. I continued to work, but then would schedule in some breaks to check in on the kids as they do e-learning. It was definitely a challenge. And I have to say that I am one of the lucky ones to have that being my challenge. I know so many people who have had such a bigger impact on their lives that I feel fortunate. On the flip side, I'm with you, Daphne. I think that it's given us a time to just take a deep breath and understand, let's just slow it down a little bit and not bite off more than we can chew, which I think our culture just ultimately makes us do, that the harder and the more you work, more work is better. And that's not necessarily true.
Yes. And that's hard to undo that when it's been ingrained in you for so long. And I had a lot of the same challenges. I mean, when the gyms closed, and you know me in the gym, I was talk about, whoa, life just stopped. I didn't know what to do. But you got creative. And as a result, I learned that I can work out in my stairwell. I took up running again. And I reinvigorated a lot of the things I like to do related to cooking and nutrition. So it was really good. But the other thing I noticed, and I don't know if it impacted you as much, is I think there was probably some underlying anxiety or some underlying depression. For the first couple of months, sleep was a mess. And I think it was a combination of what's going on, what are we going to do, what impact will this have? In some ways, I was glad my parents weren't here because the worry I would have had not being able to see them every day would have just broken my heart. But recently I've been reading this book. It's called The 30-Day Alzheimer's Solution.
Awesome.
And it's by Drs. Dean and Aisha Sherzai.
Okay.
And in the book, they talk about a lot of the things we've been talking about, Vesime, and they frame it in a way that's incredibly simple and easy. And I think, I just wanted to share with the group a little bit about how they talk about health and brain health because I really think some of what's happened in 2020 has emphasized for me the close connection between physical health and brain health.
Mm-hmm.
So they created an acronym, which they call NEURO. They're both neurologists. The N stands for nutrition. The E stands for exercise. The U stands for unwind. The R stands for restore. And the O stands for up. And it encapsulates a lot of all the things that we've been talking about. But going back to some of the webinars, and I know you started out January with your family, really focused on nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tips that you can share related to nutrition and just optimizing your physical and your mental health?
So I found out that a lot of, I'm guilty of this, Daphne, but my friends are as well. And it's like we give ourselves an excuse to not eat well. And whether it's, I'm just going to have a glass of wine, and that glass of wine ends up being more like, a bottle. We give ourselves that excuse, and unfortunately, it really doesn't serve our body well. So, what I did, I'm not saying that we will never have wine or anything, but I will say that, I felt kind of lost in the woods, like I said earlier with COVID. And I just had to put up those guardrails and pretend that I'm still doing a daily routine, and it's just shifted a little. I really try to just eliminate highly so any of the refined whites, saturated fats, sugar, processed foods. One of the things with being in quarantine was I was like, oh, I'm going to make pizza dough from scratch. And I went to the baking aisle and it was like all the flour was gone. So just goes to show everybody was wanting to try new recipes, which is great. But I think the right kind of recipes are the ones that really help you stay on track and then establish that new routine. I also tried a water warrior challenge where we were drinking the appropriate amount of water for your body type and weight. And that also helped me. I didn't realize how important staying hydrated is. Yes, we all know that, but also how much water you're really supposed to consume. And it's not water with Crystal Light or some very artificially flavored flavoring in your water. It's pure water with natural flavorings, like whole food natural flavorings like lemon, orange, mint, things like that. So yeah, I really did that. And like I said, it really helped me to just kind of shift it a little bit. But one thing that really made me feel still like, okay, now what do I do? Because I'm not going to the gym just like you. Do you have any guidance on exercise? How much exercise should people do for, while we're at home, and what kind would you recommend?
Well, first of all, if anything you like to do to be active, do it. There's no right. What's right for me or what's right for you is not going to be right for someone who's listening. So if you like to dance, if you like to walk, if you like to run, if you like to cycle, do you. But most importantly, do you consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So I can give you the guidelines or the recommendations for how much physical activity children and adults should get on a regular day. So for most of your kids, and for moms, dads, grandmas, and grandpas, those of you who are watching the little ones at home, kids should be active about an hour a day. And Vesime, I don't know if you remember when you were growing up, but I remember we got up and we were out that door.
Outside. Yep. That's right.
Mom kicked us out and we were running around. We were active. Same thing after school. You came home, you did your homework, and then you were outside again.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a different society culture now, especially with all of the devices and all of the other things that don't allow kids to be as active. But think about having your kids physically active at least an hour a day.
Okay.
For adults, it's about 150 to 300 minutes a week. And that sounds like a lot, but think about it as 30 minutes a day. So if you decide that you're going to go out and you and the family are going to go walking after dinner just for 30 minutes, Monday to Friday, you've met the minimum requirements. Uh, Now, I would suggest throwing in there a little bit of resistance training, and that doesn't have to mean going to the gym. You can, and it's one thing that really was highlighted for me in this book with the Sure's Eyes, which is you can be active anywhere. So doing body weight squats at your
Mm-hmm.
desk, you can do push-ups on the counter, you can do jumping jacks. I did a video recently where I was walking in place for 5 minutes while I was talking about physical activity. You don't need anything fancy to be active. So that 150 to 300 minutes can accumulate relatively quickly.
That's actually a really good point because I feel as though when I take in between meetings or during meetings, there are some meetings that I can walk and talk at the same time, just put my AirPods in.
Mhm.
Some of the informal meetings that I have with work or with internal team members, I mean, I think that there's definitely 30 minutes is possible. And also getting outside helps too, just to
Yes.
get that fresh air and just to disconnect from your desk for a minute. I feel like I've been sitting so much more this year than ever before.
I, I think it's worse. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's very easy for me to sit at my desk at 6:30 a.m. and leave at 6:30 p.m., but maybe have one or two health breaks, maybe remember to get up and get my meals. So being intentional about being physically active is important. I just want to touch on one other group, which are older adults. And I'm classifying myself in that category. In addition, the physical activity recommendations are the same, but I would also add thinking about doing exercises that help you maintain your balance. And that includes, it could be Pilates, it could be yoga, it could be Tai Chi, keeping that core body strong,
Yeah.
and then continuing to provide some resistance exercise to keep your bones strong. So be active. That's the core message. And as we get back to work, I agree with you. I can't wait to start walking meetings again.
I wish you just like worked next to me, Daphne. Be so
I'd make you
fit.
get up or get up and walk.
We'd have walking meetings every single meeting.
But what happens after the meetings? So how do you unwind? I mean, Vesime, I've been so impressed. I've always been impressed by you, but your mom, I know you've had a lot of family challenges the past several years. You work two jobs, I think, if not three. What do you do to unwind?
It's a conscious effort to unwind. And I think that if I were to give anybody advice, it is to just stick with the same routine, much like you do with your morning routine. Everybody gets up, they brush their teeth, they take a shower, they comb their hair. It's very much similar with a nighttime routine. So wash your face and brush your teeth, brush your hair, get it out, just completely disconnect. I actually put my phone aside. I have a charging station right next to my sink. And so it's away from my bed. So I just
Okay.
dock my phone there. I completely, just get into my bedtime routine. And then I make myself a cup of chamomile tea. And the chamomile tea is kind of a neurological signal for my brain to be like, okay, it's time to now, like, we're getting ready to go to sleep. And so after the kids go to bed, I try and just keep that routine and that ritual, just to unwind. And sometimes I think that because of if you don't have physical activity, it's hard for you to
Mhm.
just go to sleep. And especially if you've had poor nutrition and, hydration. So I think that those are all key. But also, I'll just do some of my reading. And I find it successful when I'm reading the same paragraph 6 times. I know that, okay, it's time to go to bed. But I think that just keeping a routine is 100% something that just as you do in the morning, you should do at night.
Agreed. And 2020 probably disrupted many routines, but
Yes.
getting back into the routine will be key.
So, Daphne, I remember you. Can you share some high-level tips on restorative sleep? I know that you sent me a YouTube of Sleep is Your Superpower by Dr. Walker, and I never looked at sleep like that. And so I mean, it is actually is your body needs sleep, and so having that nighttime routine is important for you to unwind, but also sleeping is really, having a good night's sleep. So I know we can't share the YouTube, but we can put that in the comments here. But what are some tips that you have on ensuring that we have really good restorative sleep, because that's key as well.
So I will be sure to share that link in the show notes for anyone who's listening. Vesime, it's interesting because going back to what you said about work, 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 I used to be of the mindset that sleeping was time that I wasn't working, or it was time when I wasn't doing. And part of it was my own insecurity. I mean, I wasn't I'm not the smartest star in the sky, but I
I
always
think
thought
you
that
are.
if I can outwork other people, then my ability to achieve and succeed would be greater. And so early on, I forwent sleep, forwent, I gave up sleep in an effort to try and squeeze more hours out of the day. And it wasn't until I saw that YouTube video, and it actually was Dr. Walker gave a TEDx talk on sleep. And I was like, well, let me give this a try. And going back to tying nutrition, physical activity, sleep to your brain health, your mental health, your overall well-being, what I found is getting into routine for sleep. I mean, I've become very protective of my sleep. Most people know that now I try and turn off my electronics an hour before I go to sleep. I'm usually in bed no later than 9. Rare occasion if I
Mhm.
have things I really need to do. I'm up, so I go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. So my alarm clock goes off at 3:45, and I'm out of bed by 4. Uh, but I've also made changes similar to you where there's not a television in my bedroom. My bedroom is my sanctuary. And
Mhm.
the temperature's right, the bedding is right. I try and not to eat several hours before sleep.
Mhm.
I've actually found that I get a much more restorative sleep
Mhm.
if I'm not sleeping on an empty stomach.
Mhm.
Those of you who like to have a glass of wine or some alcohol after work or with dinner, try not to have it, try and leave 2 to 3 hours before you go
Between.
to sleep after your last drink.
Yeah.
Um, Getting rid of the digital devices in the bedroom is tough, but it's a high recommendation. So I applaud you putting your phone in a charger off to the side. And then one other thing is that, and I don't know about you, but sometimes when I first lie down, I do the same thing. I'll may read a book, I may listen to a podcast, but worst case scenario, my brain is racing. I'll turn on Headspace.
Mhm.
Um, and so I love the Headspace app. I frequently turn on I love Andy Puddicombe's Racing Mind meditation, because if all is good, I don't hear the end of that meditation. So just a total body relaxation that I can go through in about 10 minutes. And it allows me to focus my mind on things other than everything I was trying to process during the day. Two last tips, and most of you who may be watching know I'm a gadget gal. So I wear my Aura ring, um, which has been amazing at giving me some digital information on my sleep. Just it mainly was correlative. It didn't always tell me things I didn't know, but at my um, heart rate variability, looking at my REM sleep, my non-REM sleep, I actually found it really correlated well with how well I trained, or was I overtraining a little bit?
Uh-huh.
And then I do wear my Apple Watch too. So some of the gadgetry people may think it's an investment, and it's not necessary. But if information helps you make decisions, some of these devices can be helpful in allowing you to understand what's going on with your body.
That's really helpful, Daphne. Thank you. Yeah, I need to look into that Aura ring.
It, Love it.
Yeah.
And I'll put a link to it in the show notes too.
Okay, great.
But the last part to the neuro acronym, and I want to go back to neuro because it really has resonated with me, is optimize. And Besame, I know, I've been so fortunate to keep in close touch with you over the past year, but what has been important in your life, or what can you share with those listening about optimizing your relationships, optimizing your life that you've learned in 2020 and that you're applying in 2021?
I will say that um, the number one thing that I kept doing every day is writing 5 things I was grateful for. So I think starting off your day with a gratitude list. I know I heard this before and I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'll just say them to myself in the car. But there's something about just writing them down and thinking it that actually triggers your mindset and completely changes your mindset into a much more positive and productive one. And so I think that a gratitude list is absolutely number one. The second thing is that we talk about, we lost that face-to-face interaction during quarantine. Now we're starting to get back towards it while things are opening up. But it throughout that time frame, I think social media was great, and it was also not so great because so many people would just, it's so easy to compare.
Yeah.
And I will say comparison, I mean, I don't know who quoted this, but it's not my quote, but comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that another important part is never ever compare your life with somebody else's highlight reel, because ultimately that's not true. I mean, we interpret somebody's highlight reel as if that's their life every single minute of the day, and it's not. And so I know people say this time and time again, but just know that it's true. Everybody has something that's going on with them. And just be grateful for what you have. And I think that that's really helped me, because we can so easily dwell on the negative of this past year, but really there's positive that came out of it as well. And if we highlight that, we would just, take our mindset in a different way that's better serving for ourselves. So I would absolutely say, it'll make a big difference that way.
Agree. And the gratitude journal, I'm an off and honor too. I keep it by my bedside. And I try, it does help. Sometimes you forget what you're grateful for. And it's funny because when we got on, you were talking about the fact that the weather's not great where you are today. And I was I've been doing Nike Run Club guided runs, and I did one today called the Whole Run. And Andy Puddicombe was on from Headspace. And one thing he said that resonated was, sometimes it's cloudy outside, but remember that beneath the clouds, there's still a blue sky.
That's right.
And so, don't necessarily, it may be cloudy where you are, it may be raining where you are, it may be snowing where you are, but the sky is blue beneath that. And if you can hold on and get to the blue sky again, the weather will always change. But I'd also encourage anyone who's listening, if you need help, please seek help. There's some things a gratitude journal or nutrition won't allow you to overcome on your own. And being able to seek the guidance of friends or family or a licensed behaviorist, it's very important, and there's no shame in actually asking for help. So, and there's many ways you can get it now. There's a lot of virtual opportunities to meet with someone who can help you overcome whatever challenges you may be encountering and find that blue sky again.
Right.
So I would definitely encourage people to find help if they need it.
That's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
So I know your time's valuable. And between the two of us, we could probably talk about this all day.
We could.
But if you could summarize for those listening or watching, what are the key takeaways from today? What would they be?
So we talked a lot about a lot. Let's go for number one is the nutrition side. Drink your water. And I mean regular water. I don't mean vitamin water. I don't mean anything else. Let's drink some plain old delicious hydrating water. Let's get a little bit of physical activity. You said about 30 minutes a day for adults. Kids should be active majority of the day. So limit your children. If you're a parent whose child loves their tablet, please limit their time on that. I know it's easier said than done. Trust me, I do know that. But definitely get that physical activity in. We need some mood boosting foods. And actually, Harvard Medical School did conduct a study on this, Daphne, and they recommended incorporating plant-based foods like kale, broccoli, spinach, strawberries, blueberries, and walnuts. And not only will it boost your mood, but it also is healthy for the brain. So it has cognitive health benefits as well. I think that goes for the omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin K, folate, and beta carotene in those vegetables and foods, whole plant-based foods. And so, yeah, get those in one way or another, whether it's a snack or not. Okay, we talked about physical activity as well. Just move your body, get some sunshine, unwind. Let's really power down those electronics, establish that nighttime routine. Optimize your life by making that gratitude list. Maybe one day it's going to be 1, maybe some days it's going to be 10. Just somehow get some gratitude out there for your life. And never compare yourself to anybody else's highlight reel, especially now that we're on social media so much because we had been disconnected on face-to-face. So that's a quick and dirty Cliff Notes there, Daphne.
That was quick and dirty for a 30-minute conversation. So, I mean, Vesime, we'll be back to talk more about a lot of these topics, and I think some of them will deserve a deep dive. And definitely talking about your plants, I just want to share again this book, because the shares I also talk about the Neuro 9, which goes right back to what you were saying from the Harvard study, and adding more plants to your plate. Adding more plants to your plate can help your mental health and your physical health. And there are a lot of reasons that it's positive, because it can also provide positive benefits for our environmental health. But I don't want anyone who's listening to think that anything that we've said takes the place of medical advice. Yes, I'm a doctor. I learned about some of these things that we're talking about, mainly because they've been interesting to me, and they've helped positively impact my life and other people that I love enjoy helping. But anything we've shared may have a positive impact on your health or wellness, but we would encourage you to seek the guidance of a professional, whether for your physical health or your mental health, if you need additional details about how to optimize your health.
That's right. So we appreciate you, all of you, for joining us today. I will actually really ask you to just go ahead and comment, just let us know what you liked most about this discussion. It could help us with the next topic of the next podcast that we do, or the vlog that we do. So I do want to ask, what's one key thing that you learned today that could positively impact your life and your health and wellness? I think that, and also comment on whether or not you really liked a topic that you would like us to dive in a little bit deeper, like I said before. Also, just make sure to go ahead and give us a thumbs up or subscribe to Daphne's channel, Wingman Wellness, and we would love to hear from you again. So I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us. I know this is a little longer than we've had before, but again, echo getting medical advice, and really be well. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.